Suppose stock prices quadruple and go from 100 to 400, even over the course of a decade. A lot of people would look at that and say, that is crazy. You would not trust a stock market that had prices going up like that.
There were people who saw that the economy's growth was based on false premises and warned that a problem would arise.
There are a handful of Wall Street bankers, investment bankers, who say that the economy and the market itself is way overextended, that speculation on margin is dangerous, that the stock market, the values on the stock market are grossly inflated, warning that that there are danger signs. There are some people like the statistician Roger Babson, and they are systematically ignored.
Roger Babson déclarait fin septembre, un mois avant l'effondrement, un krach va se produire, et il sera terrible, colossal. La bourse va s'effondrer, et il va y avoir un sauve-qui-peut général qui va dépasser tout ce que l'on a vu jusqu'à présent.
The higher the market got, the more other people shouted down those who warned that the market was getting out of control. Because if people started taking them seriously, they'd start to sell their stock and the stock market would go down.
There were signs before the market crashed that the economy was starting to go down again. Short-term signs of economic recession can never be trusted. We always have pauses and sometimes economies come back, but there were signs of over-speculation all over the place, in particular the high level of stock prices, which were very hard to justify on any historical basis. But there was there were investment trusts that average people were putting their money in. Investment trusts were able to borrow a lot of money to invest in stocks. Average people, typical people, were borrowing money on their own to buy individual stocks, margin borrowing. So there were all kinds of signs that there was trouble to come.
It began to sort of vacillate through September. And then in October, it began to fall. And then in about the third week in October, the bottom started to fall out.
And that's usually a sign when the bubble will burst, and it did in October of 1929.
The crash of 1929 was like a perfect storm in which all of these improbable things came together at the wrong time in the wrong way.
Et le jeudi 24 octobre, jeudi noir ou Black Thursday, la démence collective fait son apparition. En quelques heures, 13 millions de titres sont brusquement jetés sur le marché par des actionnaires affolés qui ne savent même plus à quel prix ils ont cédé leurs actions. Après 3 années d'intenses spéculations, Wall Street craque. Et personne n'est en mesure de décider la fermeture de la bourse puisque son président est en vacances à Hawaï. La bulle spéculative éclate, provoquant une panique financière. Par un effet de domino, c'est l'ensemble de la bourse qui s'effondre. Les pertes cumulées représentent 30 milliards de dollars, 10 fois le budget de l'État fédéral américain et plus que ce que les États-Unis avaient dépensé pendant toute la Première Guerre mondiale. En 6 jours, les cours moyens vont baisser de 50% et ne cesseront de tomber. Et, fait encore plus inusité, la chute de la bourse va continuer en cascade.
Oh, the crash was inevitable. It was just a matter of time. It was inevitable. And then people realized that they had been assuming that prices would never fall, and that assumption was wrong. So their whole life had been based on an assumption that prices could go only one way. Of course, if they had read history, they would know that that was a stupid idea. They know that prices come up and prices come down.
People had been putting their hand in the till at work, taking the money, putting it in the market, figuring that it's going to go up, so it'll go up, I'll cash in, put the money back in the till, No one will be the wiser. But when the market crashed, there was no way to get the money back out.
All of a sudden, they realized the model that had been in their mind was totally wrong. And realizing that they were wrong, they panic. But as they panic, what do they see? Their neighbor panic.
On the market itself, of course, the brokers are going crazy. They're tearing their hair out. They can't keep up with the descent of the market. Many people lose their money because the trades they tried to make couldn't be made in time at the prices they were trying to make them because the market was so over. The capacity to handle those trades wasn't there anymore. The wires are burning up.
The ticker tape, which recorded all the sales, couldn't keep up, and it would fall several hours behind. And when it fell that far behind, that means that if you were at 2 o'clock and you only knew what the market was doing at 10:30, you were in big trouble because you didn't know what had happened.
And as it was going down, those who were slower said, oh, I made a mistake. I wish I'd been faster. And the process accelerates, and you get this sense of free fall.
What precipitates that? I don't think to this day anybody really knows what precipitates Black Tuesday or Black Thursday, why that particular day.
Cette vieille histoire-là, tout le monde savait que ça allait arriver, mais personne n'a prévu l'ampleur que ça allait prendre.
There was something fundamentally wrong with this economy, not only with the market, with the stock market, not only that stocks were grossly overvalued, but there were underlying problems with the economy, that this illusion of prosperity that had so captivated people for nearly a decade was indeed an illusion, and that the panic was a kind of inarticulate emotional recognition of that fact, because, in other words, it was grounded in something real. It wasn't pure hysteria.
À l'intérieur de la bourse, c'est comme une gare au moment des grands départs, écrit le Wall Street Journal. Un Niagara de liquidation. Hommes et femmes se bousculent pour essayer de comprendre ce qui se passe. Perdus devant ces chiffres et ces lettres incompréhensibles pour un profane, mais qui signifient la ruine. Sur le sol, des ordres de bourse froissés par milliers. Comme des douilles de balles sur un champ de bataille, selon le New York Times.
The Great Crash is supposed to have produced mass suicides on Wall Street and elsewhere. It became the object of a kind of gallows humor. There were cartoons about Wall Street bankers jumping out of windows and so on. It's a grossly exaggerated legend.
Les rumeurs les plus folles circulent. 11 spéculateurs se seraient déjà suicidés à New York. On raconte que le directeur du Ritz exige des clients qu'ils règlent l'hôtel à l'avance en précisant « Vous voulez une chambre pour dormir ou pour sauter par la fenêtre ?»
There were indeed some suicides, not very many. One of the most notable, however, was witnessed by Winston Churchill. Churchill was visiting New York at the time of the crash. He first visited the stock market and was struck by not the panic on the market floor, but by a kind of dazed somnambulism of brokers walking around almost as if they were in a kind of semi-comatose state. And then he went back to his hotel, and while he was in his hotel, someone indeed did jump out the window of the hotel he was staying with, who turned out to be a Wall Street broker who had been ruined.
C'est l'archétype des histoires qu'on raconte quand un mythe se propage. Le premier soir où les cours vraiment se sont effondrés, les opérateurs sont sortis dans la rue. Une sorte d'angoisse collective, évidemment. Et puis alors, ils ont levé la tête là, à Wall Street, et puis au sommet d'un des buildings, ils ont vu un type qui était en l'air. Et la foule s'est dit, il va sauter. Ce type, c'était un plombier. Il était en train de remettre une gouttière. Évidemment, il n'est pas tombé. Mais la foule attendait ça. Tout le monde a un petit peu envie de voir des spéculateurs se suicider. On en a envie, s'en sont mis plein les poches. On peut quand même rêver qu'il y ait quelques suicides bien spectaculaires. On peut penser à ça.